Two figures approached a third, for a conversation of momentous importance. Of the two, neither moved easily on this planet's gravity, but both did their utmost to proceed with decorum. One was tall and slender, with skin the color of the void and eyes as wide as forever. Its fingers were spindly and delicate. Its mouth was pursed in a thin line. It moved slowly to disguise the strain of the world on its bones. The other was short and sturdy, as strong as a hyperdrive, with fur as pale as starlight and teeth as sharp as the sun. It clenched its jaw. It moved slowly, so it didn't stumble and spring upward to where the planet's pull was even less. The third was a native of this world. Its own form much the middle ground between the two, and it watched their approach with unabashed joy. "Hello," the native said, matching the mouth sound with a mind sound appropriate to a civilized race. "Welcome! Can you understand me?" The two visitors confirmed that they did, and they came with questions. "Well, sure, if I can ask some too," the native replied with a smile. "What is life like out there in the stars?" The tall one spoke first. "Life is rebuilding," it said carefully, conserving its breath. "War destroyed our network, our connections and travel, and many generations have gone into regaining what we once had." The short one stood very still as it spoke. "Some of us make strides faster than others." The tall one gave it a look sharp enough to cut a ship's hull, but the short one stared ahead at the native, ignoring it. "Wow, so it's true?" the native said, gesturing vaguely upward. "They say there were supernovas in every part of the sky, ages ago. Then the cosmos went silent." It lowered its arms, then spread them in welcome. "I'm so glad you've come." The tall one positioned its hands in a complicated shape that said it had a delicate matter to discuss. The only people to use that exact hand shape were those on its own world, but its tone was hard to miss now. "We followed traces of the oldest civilization we could find," it said. "Old records are gone, but new technologies are here." "And so are we," interrupted the short one. "And so are you. Tell us, how are your records of the past?" "I think we've got it pretty well figured out," the native said. "We did lose some things in our own upheaval, about the time we ran out of resources for space travel, but the idea of leaving the planet has been unfashionable since then. Frowned upon, sinful even, just not done. But that doesn't mean that we'll hold anything against you guys." The native raised its hands in hurried reassurance. "You can travel all you want. We're just focusing on the planet instead of space now. We've fixed a lot of things, and I tell you, we're still exploring the sea." The two visitors blinked politely, processing this avalanche of words. The tall one opened its mouth to say something, but the short one got there first. "Can you tell us which of our races is older?" it asked. And therefore the best remained unspoken. The native splayed its hands briefly. "Not off the top of my head," it said. "We'd have to check those records." The tall visitor made a dismissive gesture and spoke in a tone meant to clarify. "Both of our cultures trace our origins to this region." It gave the short one another sharp look. "There has been some competition." "I bet there has," the native said with a sympathetic shake of its head. Then it brightened. "Hey, did you ever meet any real aliens?" Dumbstruck expressions were all that the two visitors could come up with for a long moment. "Real aliens?" the tall one asked. "Yeah, you know," the native said, moving a finger back and forth between the three of them. "Not based on humans." When silence greeted it again, it continued. "Anything that's not a humanoid shape? 2 arms, 2 legs, a face something like this?" It waved a hand around its own head. "That is the universal constant for intelligent life," the tall one said, its eyes wider than before. "The only logical form that it could take?" "Oh dang, guess not," the native said. "What do you mean?" the short one barked. "Based on humans?" Now it was the native's turn to look surprised. "But you know you came from here. You just said." The short one flung an arm sideways and nearly toppled over. "Somewhere around here, yes, but obviously only one of us descended from you. We're too different." "Well, yeah, that's the gene splicing," the native said, looking from one to the other. "The whole thing about colonizing other worlds? We had to change somehow to better fit the different environments. Like you're obviously from a heavy gravity world, right? Probably a cold one? Pale fur, you know. The short visitor nodded in shock, nearly unbalancing again. And you're from either a tiny planet with low gravity or a gas cloud with barely any at all. Either the planet is hotter than this one, or the gas cloud doesn't have much ozone to filter out the sun's radiation. Dark skin. We have a whole rainbow here. The tall visitor nodded as well, but the native kept talking. Now, I haven't read up on the subject since school, but I remember there was a bunch more. One had scales. Are they still around? Yes, the tall visitor admitted. They have the fastest ships of all of us. The native clapped its hands together. Oh, good for them. It stepped forward, holding out a hand to each of the visitors. Please come meet everybody. They'll be so happy to see you. Welcome home. The tall visitor and the short one each looked at the hand spread in front of it. 5 fingers, just like their own, with skin a light brown. Family. Slowly and wordlessly, they both reached out to clasp the hands. They looked at each other briefly, sharing a moment of unnameable emotions and whirling thoughts. What would they say to their people back home? But that was a problem for later. The native was urging them forward, leading the way toward civilization, where their futures and their shared past awaited.